We expect the Dodgers to make quite a few trades this offseason. They made their first one today. Not one of the big ones we're expecting, but it does serve a purpose. We'll dig into that. Plus, Kiké Hernandez, the latest of all the walking wounded Dodgers who won this World Series in October, and the first big signing of the free agent season. Didn't go to the Dodgers, but it's worth talking about anyway. All of that tonight on All Dodgers. Coming at you live from my mom's basement in Pleasant Grove, Utah. This is the All Dodgers podcast, part of the Believe network of podcasts, brought to you by FanDuel. And it's not just my mom's basement, it's also Clint's mom's basement in beautiful La Puente, California. We used to call it La Pew when I was a kid, when my grandparents lived there. That was it, shortened it to La Pew. So,
and look at you now. You have an English degree.
Yep, I do.
You're so smart. You do smart good.
I do smart real good. This is All Dodgers. I'm Clint. No, I'm Jeff. That's Clint. One of us is Jeff. One of us is Clint. I did almost 2,000 episodes with Vince, and only once did I introduce us by each other's names. So we're only like 200 episodes in here, and already I've done it once. So I got to get better, I guess. But
I'm proud of you,
Clint. I'm glad I could drag you out of your sick bed to be here with me tonight. How you feeling, man?
I mean, it's not so much of a sick bed, just really exhausted, man. I think,
just a comfortable bed.
Comfy bed. No, all right. Well, listen, I got a complaint. Since there's not a whole lot to talk about, I'll take the floor for 40 seconds here. I got one of them sleep number beds that, does the split top thing, whatever. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see my hands doing like a flipper action. Anyways, so my side of the bed is like it just leaks down. It started doing it a little while ago. I need to figure out why, but I was told by Sleep Number, oh yeah, you have like a 25-year warranty on this thing. And then now you look up, how do I get my bed fixed? And like, oh man, you really got to figure that out or else you're going to have to pay things. So anyways, it's not always comfy because you start sinking in. And I think that's what's been leading to my grogginess. Not good sleep. I'm sleeping better at camp than I am in my home bed, but that's the end of my complaints for the day.
I used to have a Sleep Number bed. I actually swapped it out for a purple mattress about almost a decade ago. Love it.
Okay.
I mentioned this on my way too long episode the other night. Did you see how long I went in that solo episode?
What's funny is, so I got home from my goings on that evening, and I went to click to see how the episode did, and I was like, it's not showing up. So I clicked on, and you were entering like hour 2, and I was like, oh, so Jeff has some things to say tonight.
I started wrapping up at an hour and 2 minutes, and then people started asking questions and having interesting conversations. So we just kept on going. But what I was going to say, I mentioned then that I had slept in my guest room the night or two before because my wife had an ear infection and didn't want to wear her earplugs. And believe it or not, I'm kind of noisy to sleep next to. And so I slept in the guest room, and my guest bed is not nearly as comfortable as my purple mattress. Purple, sponsor me. At least long enough to give me a full-size mattress for my guest room so that when I have to sleep in there, my hip still hurts. It's been 5 days. I am so old, Clint. Older than you
How
even. How
old are you?
I'm so old that I can't think of a punchline to this joke. So let's talk about the Dodgers, shall we?
Yeah, let's do that. We appreciate everybody still being here through that. At some point during the offseason, we're going to humanize each other. Sorry if some people don't like that, but we're here. Now we'll talk about the Dodgers.
Thanks for coming to the All Mattress podcast. And now it's the All Dodgers podcast. The Dodgers made a trade, Clint. And you and I have said we expect there to be trades this offseason. We expect them to do a lot of their tinkering with the roster via the trade market. This was not one of the trades that we necessarily anticipated, partly because neither of us had ever heard of the guy the Dodgers acquired today. And in general, the trades we're anticipating are guys we've heard of. But this one, the Dodgers got a guy named Tyler, I assume it's pronounced Gough. I'm going to say Gough. And they traded Robinson Ortiz for him. Robinson Ortiz, you'll remember, was just added to the 40-man roster. Left-handed pitcher just added to the 40-man roster a couple weeks ago. And now he is off the 40-man roster because he's now on the Mariners 40-man roster. Tyler Gough comes to the Dodgers, does not need to be on the 40-man roster. So effectively what this did, Robinson Ortiz was going to be eligible for the Rule 5 draft. The Dodgers thought they might lose him, so they added him to the roster and then traded him. So instead of losing him for nothing, they lose him for a 22-year-old pitcher who has never pitched above low A, missed last year with Tommy John surgery. maybe not even as good as a lottery ticket kind of trade. It's just, it's a dude. He's now in
Yeah.
the organization and not on the 40-man roster. So cleared up a 40-man spot.
Yeah, it's a warm off 40-man body that the Dodgers and their front office and their pitching development dudes, maybe they could mold. Like you said, he's still young, only 22 years old, right-hander. They need a few righties in the organization. And yeah, it's a lot better than just throwing away Robinson Ortiz. I love the mood. This is every bit of a Andrew Friedman move. And, I can't wait for this to be one of those guys that we're talking about in a year and a half, 2 years as the next River Ryan type or something just weird and dumb like that, because if he's in the organization now, it's probably going to happen.
Yeah, none of us were excited about the Evan Phillips trade or the Ryan Brazier trade or any of those that end up being, useful to some extent. And so, yeah, it could happen. I'd still, if I had to put money on either Tyler Gough becoming a big part of the Dodgers or not becoming a big part of the Dodgers, I would be inclined to go with not becoming a big part of the Dodgers. But it does open up a 40-man spot, and that is a big deal right now because Tuesday is the deadline for the Dodgers and every other team to protect players from the Rule 5 draft. And just a quick 30-second primer, that's actually how you say it. People say primer, but me with my English degree, I know it's pronounced primer, on what the Rule 5 draft is. Anybody who's been in the organization for a certain amount of time, that amount of time differs depending on how old you were when you signed, etc. But at some point, you become eligible for the Rule 5 draft, which means that any other team can take a guy with the caveat that they have to not just be added immediately to that team's 40-man roster, but they have to be on their active roster the entire next season. So the Rule 5 draft is held the last day of the winter meetings. So that'll be next month, about 3 weeks from now or so is the Rule 5 draft. And the Dodgers have about 25 maybe 30 guys who are eligible for the Rule 5 draft. Anybody who's not added to the Dodgers 40-man roster from that list by Tuesday will then be eligible to be taken in that Rule 5 draft in like 3 weeks. And so there's a lot that goes into this, Clint, because it's not just, this guy's good, and so we need to protect him. Because they have to do a lot of kind of guessing, will this guy be taken? Because the caveat that he has to stay on the roster the next year, and we've seen twice in the last few years, players taken from the Dodgers in the Rule 5 draft and then returned to them because the team that took them didn't want to keep them in the big leagues. We had Gus Varland a couple years ago. I feel like the Mets took him and then traded him to the Brewers maybe. Anyway, I know he ended up on the Brewers, pitched for the Brewers, had one terrible game. He was pitching pretty well and then had a terrible game, just got lit up by maybe the Cardinals, and then the Brewers said, we can't do it. So they sent him back to the Dodgers. He later pitched in the big leagues for the Dodgers. And then just last year, Garrett McDaniels, the Angels took him and then didn't want to keep him in the big leagues the whole year. So they returned him to the Dodgers. Garrett McDaniels is actually one of those guys who is eligible again this year. There's about 15 guys who were eligible for the Rule 5 draft last year and are still in the organization because they weren't taken. Mm-hmm. And it's guys like Jose Rodriguez. We saw him pitch some in spring training last year. He's a guy with great strikeout stuff, but just can't put it together. Like he had this year in Double-A, he had an 8.25 ERA, and they said, let's see how he can do in Triple-A. And he had a 4.71 ERA there. A lot of strikeouts, but also a lot of walks and a lot of hits. So guys like that, it's like, okay, yeah, maybe a team is going to take a guy like Jose Rodriguez, but when you got to keep him on the roster the whole year, there's so much that goes into it. The one thing we can be pretty sure of is that the Dodgers aren't going to take anybody in the Rule 5 draft. They are not one of the buyers at the Rule 5 draft.
Yeah, and even with some of the dudes in the organization, and admittedly, I'm not very, up to date on who is eligible at the moment. The guys are going to look to protect. I think that the main name we had kind of half circled is probably Noah Miller, who's pretty close to helping this organization in some way, whether it be in a trade or potentially as a backup at shortstop if there is an injury or a need or just an infield need. But I don't know about you. That's pretty much the only guy I'm half anticipating they add to the 40-man, and probably maybe even try to find a way to trade him before the before the Rule 5 deadline or before the end of this offseason or something like that. But is there anybody else you're kind of keeping an eye on that they could try to protect?
Yeah, Miller's an interesting one just because the dude can't really hit yet. And so uh, it would have to be a team that's okay with a backup shortstop who can't hit and hoping that he will learn how to hit. But it's hard to learn how to hit when you're sitting on the bench in the big leagues. So I'd be surprised, honestly, if Miller is protected. Usually, I would think more along the lines of pitchers who teams that, guys with good stuff. Peter Hubeck's got good stuff. Ronan Kopp has good stuff.
Is Ronan Kopp at that point?
Ronan Kopp is eligible.
Hey, we saw them last year. Jack Dreyer. A few people in the chat have already mentioned that. Jack Dreyer was somebody a year ago I did not know the name, let alone what he did for a living, which was left-handed pitching. And now he's World Series champ and was probably the most consistent reliever from day one to day however many they played through game 7.
6 million. Yeah. And so for me, that's the kind of guys I'd be looking at. Pitchers with good stuff, because it's a lot easier to hide a pitcher at the back end of your bullpen for a year. I remember there was about a decade ago, the Padres actually took 3 guys in the Rule 5 draft and just stashed them. They had a guy, I can never remember his name. He was a catcher, and the Padres took him in the Rule 5 draft and put him on their big league roster. And he stayed there the whole year. And then the next year he played at Lake Elsinore, my hometown, which was high A at the time. So they kept him in the big leagues for a whole year and then sent him to high A just because, and he ended up he was in that, I can find who it was because I'm pretty sure he was in the Ty France trade. And let's see, it was Luis Torrens. The Padres took Luis Torrens in the Rule 5 draft.
Oh yeah.
Camped him in the big leagues and then sent him to high A the next year. He did get back to the big leagues a little bit 2 years later. But yeah, and then they ended up trading him to the Mariners. But that year in 2017, the Padres had 3 Rule 5 draft picks on their roster the whole year because they weren't doing anything. And you can do that with a backup catcher or a back end of your bullpen kind of guy. And so that's who I'd be thinking about, Jose Rodriguez, Peter Hubeck, Maddox Bruns, Ronan Kopp, some of those guys. And then maybe even Yainer Fernandez, Griffin Lockwood Powell, Jesus Gelles, some of those catchers who, if you think there's potential, and sure, he can be our backup catcher who plays once a week and bats nothing. And then we send him back to the minors.
Mike in the chat, Doom Sal, or it says Sup T529 because we have that thing where people's channel names are different than what they used to be, but he also brings up Jared Karros as one of those guys. Yeah, Peter Hubeck, Jared Karros, Ronan Kopp. Ronan Kopp has been one of those dudes I've long been intrigued by. I think they have enough lefty relief talent, it feels like, on the 40-man. However, if you're looking at Ronan Kopp as a sort of like maybe potential Anthony Banda improvement or something like that, somebody with options, they need to clear some space. They need to clear more space before, what is it, Tuesday in that 40-man that Rule 5
Tuesday's the deadline.
Yeah.
And yeah, Ronan Kopp is maybe the most likely one there because he is a guy who, again, great strikeout stuff, walks way too many guys, but could be a guy because the Dodgers don't have to put him on their active roster all next year. They just, he could be that guy who's on their 40-man roster and, for now, and either they, if they run out of room, they DFA him and they're not any worse off than losing him in the Rule 5 draft, really. But, he was really good in AA last year and then not as good in AAA, but, and even where he was good in AA. Still too many walks, but that's obviously, yeah, it comes with territory with guys with really good stuff in the minor leagues sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, they definitely have a couple of spots on the 40-man they could play with still. Estuary Ruiz, that's going to be a DFA or a trade in no time flat. Probably looking at somebody like Nick Frasso. I think his time of that shine from his insane, I think it was 2022 season, is likely over, and he was not good last year. But if you are going to try to protect more guys than we anticipate, they do not have a lot of wiggle room unless they are making some kind of shocking moves. Think Bobby Miller type of move, getting rid of him, whether it be a trade or a DFA or something like that. Not that it would be shocking. It would be a welcome sight for most people. But, man, we've been talking about this for a while, that 40-man roster and how Thoit it's going to be. We are in Thoit season for that 40-man.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it'll be interesting to see. But this one today did free up some space, either for the Rule 5 draft protectees or because there's, other moves to be made, because the Dodgers do have some moves to make this offseason. And as we talked about the other day, there's not really many guys. I think Evan Phillips and maybe there was one position player. No, just Evan Phillips, as far as guys who will be able to go straight to the 60-day IL when that opens up in February. Realistically, they're not going to have that available to them like they have I think last year they had 6 guys who they could have put on this 60-day IL as soon as it was available. And so it's going to be a different sort of offseason this year for sure. Before we move on, let's talk a little bit about FanDuel. There's still stuff going on in the sports world, even though baseball's done, which is weird to me. And you can start even thinking ahead to next year. The Dodgers are still at plus 180 to win the National League next year. They are still at plus 350 to win the World Series next year. There's NFL going on all the time. NBA season is going on, NHL season. Basically everything except Major League Baseball is going on right now. And so if, you're one of those people who pays attention to other sports, couldn't be me, but there's a lot of stuff that you could be looking at the odds over on FanDuel if you're looking to add to your enjoyment or stress level or, skin in the game or whatever you want to call it. So, interesting odds over there at FanDuel, but I'm mostly still looking at the Dodgers odds because I stare out the window and wait for next season, So.
Yeah, I could very vividly see you doing that, and you could be doing that on a fresh new, was it purple mattress in your guest room?
Yeah.
Cough, cough.
I think they're local
purple
here,
mattress.
Too. I think Purple is a Utah company too. So, hey, just deliver it to my house, folks. We got a super chat from our buddy Richie. The only way we read Richie comments on this podcast. I read several the other night in 2 hours and 17 minutes. Richie said, $4.99 super chat says, the dog days of the offseason, people who attend Nickelback concerts can't believe how boring it is. Clint looks like the poster boy for Forest Lawn.
Feeling it.
Man.
What's the did I miss a Nickelback reference? I
think he's just saying Nickelback's boring and the offseason is boring. So
listen, at some point in time, you find yourself getting old enough to appreciate what Nickelback means to the music community, both as a whipping boy and with as a band that has a couple of bangers. All right, it's
absolutely weird that Nickelback has become what they have, like, to be the go-to band to make fun of, because they're not nearly the worst band to come out during that time period or any other time period. They're just kind of generic. Did I ever tell you about the time I was at a Waffle House in Atlanta and Chad Kroeger was there?
No.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
I was laughing because you have stories.
I do.
For a guy that kind of you give that you don't do very many things, even though obviously you do a lot of things. With the family, taking the kids to the sports and the other things. Now
I've been to 33 major league stadiums, and so it means I've been to a lot of Waffle Houses too. And one time, Chad Kroeger was there.
I was also looking for a picture so I could be like, look at this photograph, but I don't. Unprepared for this bit, guys.
Man, that's rough.
Sorry. We're losing.
You'll never be a rock star like that. I just want to know how bad you have to look that Richie is the one pointing out how bad you look.
I mean, do I look that bad?
I don't think
so. I
did
did quite literally just roll out of bed long enough to brew myself a coffee, pee, and then join the show.
I think you look good. Probably the makeup.
My man.
Elisheva says, I looked up the pronunciation of primer. Primer with the long I is also correct. I'll tell you, one of my pet peeves as a guy with an English degree is descriptive dictionaries. There are two different kinds. There's descriptive and prescriptive. Prescriptive dictionaries tell you how things should be pronounced. Descriptive tell you how they are pronounced. And so a descriptive dictionary will tell you that you can say it'll tell you that literally can also mean figuratively. But so yeah, people
Can
say
we all
primer.
just agree that the English language is stupid?
I
pretty
can
dumb.
agree that a lot of people who speak the English language are stupid. Is that good enough? Let's talk
We'll
about
digress.
Kiké Hernandez had
Let's do
surgery on
that.
his left elbow. Obviously he played great defense in October. He didn't hit well. I don't know how much of that had to do with the bad left elbow, and the elbow was bothering him for a lot of the season, and so it was kind of an interesting situation to be in because the Dodgers couldn't just shut Kiké down and say go have surgery because the only reason he's on the team is for October, and so you can't have him have season-ending surgery when his elbow starts hurting in August. Just kind of gotta deal with it, Kiké,
Yeah.
and so he did.
Yeah, I mean, we remember kind of. Well, I when you say this pop up, you're like, man, I forgot there was a point in the season where, hey, he might not, be healthy enough to play this year. He was on the IL. We're like, what's going on with this dude? They never really revealed what the situation was. Eventually got himself healthy enough to be a factor for this team in the postseason. He was hitting pretty decently at the start of the postseason. I don't know if you saw Chad Moriyama had posted the numbers. He slid into home plate awkwardly against the Brewers, and after that, his whole postseason just straight up tanked. He went from 972 OPS to a 367 OPS.
Yeah, the first half he was great, and the second half of the postseason he couldn't hit. And obviously, when a guy is injured and terrible at the same time, you generally tend to think, well, maybe he's terrible because he's injured. The lack of power, definitely I could chalk up to the elbow. And that was a big issue with Kiké. He hit, one home run in the postseason, I think. And maybe that's all it was. Because I feel like a big part of Kicktober is the clutch extra base hits, the home runs, the big hits. And he didn't really have the strength to do that. There was a lot of pitches on the outside corner and just Kiké looking like there's no way he will ever be able to reach that pitch. And maybe when he's healthier, he can do more going the opposite way with it, like he did to start that rally in the fifth inning of Game 5 of the World Series last year, going the opposite way with an outside pitch. And so maybe that was elbow related too. I guess my big picture question for you here, Clint, on this is, do you think, knowing that Kiké's elbow has now been surgically repaired, so theoretically he will be healthy next year, are you on board with run it back again in 2026 with Kiké specifically with Kicktober in mind?
Well, I mean, you always got to believe in Kicktober. I was somebody who was a big fan of bringing him back last year, up to the point where he caught wind of it and appreciated it. There is something to be said about running it back with this group of guys. And obviously I've already said, I don't think, at least before this news, before this revelation and this surgery, I didn't think, and I don't think that they would bring back both him and Miguel Rojas. I think Miggy Rowe is a foregone conclusion. He will be back at some point in time. It's probably going to be one of those situations where they're able to kick the can down the road because they know they're going to return together and they could push it off until spring training when they have more roster space. But to the Kiké question, I do think this changes some things. Knowing that he was playing injured, it wasn't great before that injury, if we're assuming the injury happened at the end of May. But the OPS was still near 800. He had 7 homers in those first 45 games of the season. Did not hit well at all from that point forward. Considering there aren't really other exceptionally great options out there, definitely would not be shocked to see this kind of flip the mindset for this front office and consider bringing back, consider having him back on the roster after May 31st. 169 batting average, nice, and a 497 OPS. There was definitely something to be said about that injury.
Yeah. BC thinks Kicktober didn't fully happen because I personally did not believe it in enough. There's definitely some cause and some effect. We won't say which one was which. But Kiké wasn't the only one hurting. Tommy Edman that we talked about. He's scheduled for surgery, I think, this week? He's having
This week.
ankle surgery. And, he was obviously, their outfield setup would have been a lot different. Andy Paez probably goes to the bench earlier in his struggles if Edman had been healthy enough to really take down center field. A lot of different things might have been different. And Edman wasn't really fully healthy all season long. And that was, when I was talking to Tommy Edman's dad after a game in the game 3 of the NLCS, and that was the game that Edman got the game-winning hit, the go-ahead hit off of Mizorowski. And, I said, I was talking about that hit, and he's like, yeah, we just got to get that ankle healthy so he can do that more often, and it reminded me of when I was talking to Clay Bellinger during the 2018 NLCS. And he's like, yeah, Cody's swing is just terrible right now. We got to get that figured out, and believe it or not, Cody Bellinger figured things out in 2019, as you might remember. And so hopefully getting Edman healthy gets him ready to contribute as a good utility player, playing all over the place. He hit better left-handed this year than he has in the past in a lot of ways. And so, maybe becoming more of a true option as a switch hitter with all the different positions he can play and being a switch hitter. He's a guy who could be super valuable to this team if he's fully healthy.
And this gets us, lends itself to that conversation we had a couple weekends ago about, is this team are they good enough to run it back as is? And that as is with the idea that they bring back their kind of core of utility dudes. That would be Kiké, that'd be Miguel Rojas, Tommy Edman is in there, but we know this team is healthy enough or is good enough to win when they're not completely healthy. Imagining Tommy Edman being healthy, Kiké being healthy, Miggy Rowe being healthy for for the entirety of a season and then into the postseason and all that. There's a lot to like about those three guys, and knowing that they're not going to cost a butt ton of money or butt ton of prospects or anything like that. Like, these are guys who really want to be back, in particular, Miggy Rowe and Kiké. Finding that good balance of those three dudes in particular, Miggy, Kiké, and Tommy Edman, wherever they play, they can fit in anywhere in the lineup, slot in anywhere in the lineup, 1 through 9, and you're not going to be terribly upset about it. Maybe I don't want to see any of those guys batting cleanup, even though we have at different points in time. But it's still a really, really good roster. That is a really, really good team. That is a team that can compete and honor those FanDuel odds for us. This is the time to get healthy, I guess. I got nothing else. I mean, I just kind of talked in a circle there, but there's something in there.
Yeah, and you mentioned Rojas, who was the third guy who we were going to talk about, who was injured in October. He hurt himself celebrating that play that ended Game 6 of the World Series.
Same.
And I think we're all a little bit sore after that particular play. But he wasn't sure he was going to be able to play in Game 7. And then he ends up coming up with, obviously, one of the biggest hits in Dodgers history. And that feels crazy to say, but when you talk about the fact the Dodgers won the World Series, and without that hit, they lose the World Series. There's very few, obviously Freddie Freeman's Grand Slam last year was more dramatic and more, a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be more famous, but I don't think it was more impactful, because that was Game 1. And the Dodgers ended up winning the series 4-1. And so, maybe the whole series goes differently if Freddie doesn't get that hit, but, we don't know. Same with Kirk Gibson. Again, it's Game 1, and the Dodgers won in 5 games that year too. All these different big hits, Rick Monday's hit in 81, you could make a case for that, because without that, the Dodgers don't win the World Series that year. But it wasn't Game 7 of the World Series that he hit the home run. It was the NLCS. And so, all these things, when we're talking 9th inning, Game 7 of the World Series, the fact that Rojas hit that, and then finding out afterwards that he was injured, that he was hurting, and that he makes the play in the bottom of the 9th inning, that, just ridiculous that Rojas was able to do that. And it's something that we haven't really talked much about as impressive as Rojas was, even more impressive if you find out that he was hurt.
Yeah, I mean, gritty. This is a gamer. This is a ball player. That's a dude that you want in that clubhouse for a number of reasons. Paramount of which is his ability to play defense. but we found out, this is one of the things I had in my post World Series monologue on a Saturday show, that one of these days, I promise Richie, Saturdays we'll be back and you can drop all the F-bombs in the world. But there's a little bit of clutch in that bat for Miguel Rojas. We saw it somewhat in 2024. It was on, very much on display in that Game 7, top of the ninth inning. And I'm going to circle back to it. There's just something exciting to me about seeing what that core can do. I'm not saying that the front office will see it this way, or that other other teams aren't going to be in pursuit of maybe Miguel Rojas, or more so Kiké Hernandez, of the guys that are free agents. But to see that core be healthy and try to run it back, it's there is something that's fun and exciting about that. It's still a very, very good team, and there's still time to add an opportunity to add a left fielder to replace Michael Conforto and him actually be a factor. And then that's when Keektober can really happen, because Kiké can't be handed to him. Like he needs to earn it, like he did every other time he's really excelled. So that's why it's not your fault. I'm taking the onus off of you. I'm taking all of Kiké's postseason struggles off of you. It's unfair. It's because he was handed the starting job.
Yeah.
It's on Conforto for being
like
so bad.
Everything else in 2025, it's Michael Conforto's fault for sure.
But yeah, Jason agreeing in the chat, Rojas and Kiké deserve to be back to help us three-peat, and I agree with that. I still think there is a fair chance that one of both aren't going to be back. I think that one is more likely to be Kiké. Doesn't mean that's just a prediction. I still very easily can be wrong. I have been wrong a time or two here on the internet. And I think there is something to be said about, this upcoming season kind of playing with house money or whatever, as I have said, and running it back. You can kind of get away with it. You already have 2 World Series under the belt. Like, nice to win 3, but you don't need to win 3. Nobody's losing their jobs if you don't win next year, but you're still in a very prime position with a healthy Miguel Rojas, healthy Kiké Hernandez, and healthy Tommy Edman, filling up 1 or 3 spots, in the roster or in the lineup any given day over the course of the season.
Yeah, I guess to put a bow on this segment about the fact that the Dodgers were able to win the World Series despite, obviously these 3 guys we talked about being hurting. Like Freddie Freeman wasn't 100% physically all season long. Tanner Scott wasn't on the roster.
It's good enough to be doing the worm apparently twice.
Yeah. Freddie's 80% is a lot better than a lot of people's 100%, especially on the dance floor. But Tanner Scott wasn't healthy enough to be on the roster. We could argue about whether or not he was good enough to be on the roster, but this is the guy they signed to be their big money closer. He's, unavailable for butt reasons in the World Series, and Kirby Yates, Michael Kopech, both not healthy enough to be on the roster. These are guys that the Dodgers going into the season, if you had said Rojas, Kiké, and Edman are going to be banged up in the World Series, Kopech, Scott, Yates, and Evan Phillips are all going to be injured in the World Series, your response would probably be like, oh, so how did we make the World Series? How did we end up there? And obviously you still have some of the big names, especially on the offensive side. And the fact that none of those names we've mentioned were starting pitchers was a huge, huge part of this. But Dodgers have overcome a lot each of these last 2 years, injury-wise, to win the World Series. And, it's one of those advantages the Dodgers have, because they do have money. Their ownership is willing to spend that money on the roster. They have the depth so that when guys are hurt, they have other guys who can step up. Or it doesn't kill them to have a big money free agent be bad and then get hurt. You can say, okay, well, we'll survive because, and so it's something that Dodger haters want us to apologize for the Dodgers spending money on their roster. It's something that every time somebody tries to give it, had to go out and buy a World Series championship. Yeah, I hate that ownership of my favorite team invests the money they make into making the team better so that I can have a more enjoyable fan experience. I just hate it.
Yeah, they're Dodgers.
It's heartbreaking.
It's tough, man. It's tough that they decided to be nice enough to free this poor Mookie Betts fellow who was about to be out of a job with his Boston team because they wouldn't pay him fairly, and they were nice enough to step up and reach into their pockets and give a little bit to him. And other players, Freddie Freeman wasn't going to have a job because the Atlanta Braves decided, you want to be paid fairly? I don't know about all that. So really, the charity that is the Los Angeles Dodgers, we thank them for their efforts.
Freddie
Also,
Freeman's
rescuing Shohei Ohtani from Anaheim. This is a great move.
Freddie Freeman's a big part of why I do need the Dodgers to win a third in a row and then a fourth, because I really want Freddie Freeman's Hall of Fame plaque to have a Dodger hat on it.
Yeah, that you can't really argue for an Atlanta hat if he has 4 rings,
especially if he
rings
can get himself another World Series MVP next year. It's like, okay, yeah, he had a league MVP and 1 World Series title with the Braves, but if he gets 4 World Series titles and 2 World Series MVPs with the Dodgers, it's over. Bing, bang, boom.
Hey, I want to touch on something before we move on to the free agency talk and the Dodgers not signing a player. But one of the things you're talking about as part of buttoning up this segment of the show and Dodgers having good players and being good at the right times, there is a conversation being had in the chat about Dave Roberts. Steve Schmidt in particular talking about Dave Roberts making right move after right move during the playoffs. And if people didn't see that, you're blind. You're absolutely blind. Like Doc pulled a lot of the right levers, and he has each of these last 2 postseasons. A lot of it has been Dave pulling the right levers. But then you can make the argument, how come in 22 and 23 he pulled those same levers and he didn't pull the, hey, Mookie, figure out how to hit, and hey, Freddie, don't hit like 100 during the postseason. I think deeper into the postseason is where you see Dave's opportunity to shine, but dude absolutely deserves some love and appreciation for helping guide this team and put the right dudes in the right spots en route to winning 2 in a row. One of those moves being, hey, Yamamoto, just keep going, going, throwing out there.
Yeah, and to the extent that a manager can have an impact, yeah, Dave Roberts deserves a ton of credit. I'm on record saying I think managers always get too much blame and too much credit. But I think the mindset that we're seeing from some people in the chat that it's just anybody could win with this roster, et cetera, et cetera. There's so much evidence to the contrary. When you look at, I mentioned this before. What's the highest tax bracket in the CBT called?
The Cohen tax.
The Cohen tax.
Yeah.
Not the Mark Walter tax. It's the Steve Cohen tax, because the Mets have spent a gazillion dollars and
they didn't make the postseason, right? I think they didn't make the postseason. Weird. It's crazy how that works.
Yeah.
And the good teams the Padres have had. They went out and got themselves a good manager with Bob Melvin. Couldn't do crap.
Yep. And you've got Mets, Padres, Yankees, all these teams that spend a ton of money. The 2025 Toronto Blue Jays spent a lot of money and tried to spend more, but Shohei Ohtani didn't choose them. Spending money doesn't get the job done. Mm-hmm. And the Dodgers spend money wisely, and that's definitely a big part of it. But also the job that Dave Roberts has to do, managing in LA, managing all these guys. And yeah, I do believe the front office deserves a ton of credit for recognizing, okay, Freddie Freeman is the kind of guy who will buy into being part of a bigger whole here. Mookie Betts is that kind of guy. Shohei Ohtani is that kind of guy. But I also think Dave Roberts does a really good job of helping people want to be that kind of guy. And yeah, so to the extent the managers deserve credit, Dave Roberts deserves a ton of credit. But also, you know what? I've said it many times. Players playing better makes managers look good. Mm-hmm. If Rojas doesn't hit that home run, the Dave Roberts story is leaving Shohei in the game too long on the mound.
Yeah.
And
the bats once again cratering.
If Isaiah Kiner-Falefa gets a foot bigger lead, the story is went to Yamamoto one too many times and then he lost the game. Hits his first batter to load the bases and then gives up the run and the Dodgers lose the World Series. It always comes down to the players playing. But I think that Dave Roberts is the kind of manager that players want to succeed for. And that's a big deal that can't be quantified. It will never get recognized in the Manager of the Year voting. But I think it's a real thing that whether we can put a number on it or not.
Yeah. Fully agree on that one.
We got another super chat. Let's take a little a palate
Detour.
cleanser before we move on to our last topic. Our buddy Frank,
What's going on, Frank? If
$5
he's still
super
here.
chat. Yeah, sorry, this is a while ago, but I didn't want to derail the conversation, but I like the question. Dodger Stadium is adding Habit Burger next season. What's one eatery you would like them to add? First of all, Clint, have you eaten at Habit Burger?
I have the habit.
I've only eaten there once. There's one near me, but it doesn't have a drive-through. It's a little bit fancier than a lot of burger places, And
Very
so
picky
when I want a burger, I'm usually I want a drive-through burger. So I've only been there one time, but I remember liking it. Are you a fan?
Yeah, I mean, it's a burger place that has burgers that I enjoy. I don't go out of my way because I don't know if they have very many drive-through versions of them. And yeah, like burger, drive-through, they just go together hand in hand. Very good burger. I think it's a great addition to Dodger Stadium. It's going to be fun to see a $15 Habit Burger, $20 Habit Burger instead of the usual whatever it is now, $8 to $10 or something like that. But I think my answer about what I would love to see them add.
You want the son of Baconator and his dad, Baconator Senior, there at Dodger Stadium, don't you?
Listen, Wendy's deserves all the love, all the credit in the world. They got shakes there. You can get chili with a fingernail in it if everybody remembers that from 30 years ago. Hell yeah, give me a Baconator at a Dodger game, and I could live happily.
But
that said, I don't actually want.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, if Wendy's was at Dodger Stadium, you still wouldn't go to Wendy's at Dodger Stadium and pay $13 for your $6 Baconator, right?
Absolutely not. Yeah. No. If I'm going there, it's like it'd be like, not that I'm a big traveling boy or whatever, but going to another country and going to their McDonald's. Maybe you go there to try it. But you don't like, that's not your goal. Do
you know if Habit is replacing something that's already there or if it's
probably
being added? I hope it's not replacing Shake Shack because I like Shake Shack a lot. And I actually have not had. Really? I'm a big Shake Shack fan. Their shakes and their burgers. It's a saltier burger than most places you'll get, and so you got to be in the mood for a salty burger. But obviously, the most obvious one that would make sense to put at Dodger Stadium is In-N-Out. Yeah, because In-N-Out is a Southern California staple, and it is the best fast food burger, despite what some Baconators might say. But I feel like if In-N-Out was ever going to come to Dodger Stadium, it would have happened already.
Yeah. My real answer, my non-Wendy's answer, Tommy's at Dodger Stadium, in Dodger Stadium would be nice, even though it's it's one of those things like it's a rite of passage to go to Tommy's after a Dodger game, but to have it there, have that messy ass burger at a Dodger game would be pretty fun.
Yeah, a lot of good options there.
Yeah.
But honestly, like I think we've kind of passed the point where Dodger Stadium will ever be known for the food options.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, Habit, it's a good step forward. Mike does say in the chat that Habit has drive-thrus. The one near me doesn't have a drive-through. So
I have not seen it, but again, I don't try. I don't go out of my way for Habit Burger.
Yeah.
What about Raising Cane's? Let's get some Raising Cane's, chicken fingers. Anybody going once, going twice?
I saw, it was, about 10 years ago, I saw some poll and it was like, what's the most popular restaurant in each state? And it said California was Raising Cane's. At that point, I had never heard of it. And the first time I ever had Cane's was November 2nd, 2017, the day after the World Series ended. I went to Game 7 of the World Series, watched the Cheaters finish beating the Dodgers, and then the next day I drove home to beautiful Pleasant Grove, Utah. And on the way, I stopped in Vegas, met up with a fellow Dodger fan friend, and went to lunch at Cane's. And I wasn't impressed. And I thought, okay, maybe I'm just in a bad mood because of the World Series. And then Cane's finally came to Utah, and I've been a couple times since then, and I've been equally not impressed each time. And
It's fine. It's not like, oh my God. But think of eating Cane's at a Dodger game. The Dodger game immediately brings your joy and
Dodger
happiness.
Stadium already has better chicken strips than Raising Cane's has.
You know what? From my experience, they're too far. They are too far from the auxiliary press box. So their chicken strips don't count.
Everything's too far from the auxiliary press box. Oh
Yeah.
man.
Also, you can get a slop in a plastic helmet if you're anywhere near reserve 59 or 60.
You
What are
just
those helmets that you
just
can't
described
see
my
right now?
favorite meal: slop in a plastic helmet. But yeah, it went.
I do love Frank's idea. Also, he had said, was Dave's hot chicken. He had said after the super chat, just imagine a whole bunch of people blowing ass there in the 7th inning.
I've never heard of that place, but
That's like Nashville hot chicken.
okay, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. When it comes to chicken strips, like over
spicy.
Canes, uh, give me Popeyes any day over Canes. And bring a Popeyes Dodger Stadium. Honestly, like Popeyes is a place that everything I've had there I love. So
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Popeyes.
yeah, I love that chicken for Popeyes. All right, should we talk about baseball some more?
Yeah. Hey, we haven't really lost people in the chat from what I'm seeing. So thanks for giving us the opportunity to have weird takes
Yeah,
or food takes in the show.
it's off season, all Dodgers. You know, we're talking about food sometimes,
We'll
talk
we'll
about
have to tell
Nickelback
Kevin about
sometimes,
this.
talk about mattresses.
Yeah.
So, uh, so there was a big free agent signing today. I don't think it's official yet,
No.
and maybe
There's not even
pe-
any figures yet, I
pending
think.
physical, and the guy is built about like you and me. You know, maybe that there's a chance, but it's also with the team that he just got done playing for and almost making it to the World Series with. Josh Naylor is re-signing with the Mariners, 5-year contract. Jeff Passan reported it, so it's the real deal. Like you said, we don't have any numbers on it, but going back to the Mariners, where he had a very successful couple months after getting traded there by the D-backs, somehow stole a bunch of bases this year, despite being the second slowest guy in baseball. He stole 30 or 31
30.
bases. But yeah, it's kind of an interesting signing, I think, and it's a good example of the Mariners liked what they saw. They feel comfortable with him. He likes it there, and so it made sense for him to go back to Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, he had a phenomenal couple of months, like you mentioned, with Seattle there. They had a glaring need for a first baseman. 5 years, I never would have imagined Josh Naylor getting a 5-year deal. But when you look at the numbers, I mean, dude has been very consistent since 22, broke in 21. Just looking at the numbers again, another dude. I don't know a whole bunch about Josh Naylor, but after he finally got an opportunity to get some consistent playing time, he's just been a ball player, man. And that's a Mariners team, thinking back to, I think it was last offseason where they opted to, not bring back Justin Turner. They opted to not really make any moves. And JT was, after signing his new deal, was pretty critical of the Mariners for not being active. Feels like they kind of read that and reacted to it last trade deadline, bringing back Gino Suarez and Josh Naylor there, and re-signing one of them thus far. That's a huge move for that club, man, because they were close. They were close to being the team that we faced in the World Series.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's a good hitter. He doesn't strike out a lot.
Hitterish.
Yeah, has good power, somewhere between good and great power, depending on the year. Really, he's only had great power 1 year, but there's also like when the Guardians traded him to the D-backs after the 2024 season, there were rumblings that they weren't happy with his fitness level, and that's why they traded him. And then when you get traded twice in 8 months or whatever it is, it's like, okay, like, is he that guy? But he seems to have, well, he's convinced the Mariners that he's that guy. Mm-hmm. They obviously don't have concerns, and maybe that's why he decided to go steal a bunch of bases, saying, look, don't worry about my fitness level. I'm fitting this stolen base in my pocket.
Me, a big athlete. That's what he's saying there. But yeah, I mean, depending on the numbers, MLB trade rumors said could be in the range of $90 to $100 million. I think it's going to be more. It feels to me like it should be more if it's at 5 years. I don't know. What do you think? What's a fair deal? Because this is obviously what's going to be that first big move that sort of sets the market. And that's the important part for the Dodgers, is what the market looks like. We don't anticipate them really being in on the Kyle Tucker sweepstakes, but maybe Cody Bellinger is somebody who's slightly above that Josh Naylor tier, but I think that's something that kind of sets the market in a way. I don't know. That's just my
maybe
thinking.
maybe a little bit. For me, Naylor is so different from every other free agent, um, skill set wise, position wise. Like I mean, yes, technically he has played several different positions in his career, but he's a first baseman and a first baseman only. He was a good first baseman this year.
Mm-hmm.
He's been a bad first baseman in the past, and so not really sure what you're getting there. He doesn't have the track record of some of the other free agents, so I kind of view this with him going back to his previous team and being so much different. I view it almost as a separate entity than the rest of the free agents. So I don't think it has much of a setting the market effect or anything.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong.
Sets a market, at least. Guys coming back.
Yeah, Noah mentions Pete
Noah,
Alonso.
Really good point. Yeah.
Josh Naylor.
Do you think sidebar on that one? Do you think Pete's finally done in New York?
I think he is.
It feels like a very contentious relationship.
Yeah, and the fact that they weren't able to get the job done with him, like I feel like both sides might think it's time to move on. Pete Alonso is going to be an interesting one because he actually is much better defensively than you would expect a guy who is built like him and moves like him to be. You seen that dude run? Pete Alonso runs funnier than anybody in baseball. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. He runs like he's carrying like a piano tied to his back.
Yeah. Like he's about to fall over forward and backward at the same time somehow.
Yeah. He's giving here's a throwback for giving Jason Phillips running energy. Just a lot more speed than Jason Phillips.
I remember Jason Phillips. I don't remember how he ran at all, but
it was very much like one of those straight up and down kind of dudes trying his best to not topple over one way or the other.
Yeah. I got a fun story about me running in baseball one day that I'll share with you.
Put it on the list.
Yeah. So obviously Josh Naylor was never going to be on the Dodgers radar. He's a first baseman only. Dodgers are set at first base for the next couple of years. So this one doesn't really impact the Dodgers at all. Do you think, though, like I already said, I don't think necessarily sets the market. Do you think maybe it gets the market rolling a little bit? Like somebody's got to sign first, right?
Yeah. I mean, this should open something of a floodgate. However slow that flood may be, you got to have somebody sign first. Now the Mariners are going to be out on first baseman, so that kind of sets up that market as well for somebody like throw in a Cody Bellinger alongside Pete Alonso of some of the big names. I gotta I don't have all the free agents in front of me, so I forget who the other big first baseman names are. But there's got to be something. It needs to be a little bit of movement before the winter meetings, and that's what 3 weeks away, 2.5 weeks, something like that way. Something like that.
It's usually that first full week of December ish. I don't even know where they are this year. Do you know where the winter meetings are this year?
Probably should, but I do not. I'm going to look that up right now.
You can tell that both of us aren't currently working for outlets that might want to pay for us to go to the winter meetings, huh?
No, it's not necessarily not necessarily my bag. Let's see. 2025 MLB winter meetings.
Although I think the most time that you and I have spent in the same room together was at the winter meetings a couple of years ago. So
yeah,
where are they at?
Yeah. They're in Orlando, Florida, December 7th through the 10th. I will not be there.
I've never been to Orlando, and that will continue.
So. I'm imagining AJ Przinsky and the Foul Territory boys will be there because that is right down the street.
Yeah,
I think Przinsky lives out there at least.
So, I'm interested to see if this does kind of kickstart things. If it's just, okay, well, I guess we're allowed to start doing free agent moves now, and people start doing it. It's going to be so interesting to see how the potential labor strife might play into this year's free agent market. So many different things. I just have a hard time seeing the Dodgers being big and the big names in free agency this year.
That for sure. I have a hard time seeing them being exceptionally active for a while too. Outside of moves like we saw today, trading away Robinson Ortiz, they need to clear space before they're able to bring anybody back. They need to make room for some Rule 5 draft guys. They need to make room to bring back a Miguel Rojas, let alone a Kiké Hernandez. They need to be bold if they're going to get better. They they can't have a 45-man roster. If any team should or deserves it, it should be the Dodgers. But it's going to be a boring offseason for a little while. They're going to be, in on everybody. They're going to kick the tires on players, and I'm going to yell at John Heyman some more. But otherwise, it's going to be slow for a while. We're going to need to be watching what other teams are doing.
And that's exciting too, And there will, Josh Naylor wasn't going to be an option for the Dodgers anyway, like we said, but there will be other guys who do sign places that we're like, cross him off the potential Dodger list. And, and then eventually some guys will come to the Dodgers either via free agency or trade. And we will start to see the roster shape up, ship out, sharp in.
Shart? They're going to shart? Hell yeah.
You never know. Yeah, so I think that's about all we had to talk about tonight. There's like you said, there's a lot. We've got a big, long Google Doc of topic ideas, potential trade targets, potential free agents. I saw somebody asking about Brendan Donovan as a potential trade target. Mm-hmm. We'll probably do an episode soon-ish talking about Donovan and maybe Lars Nootbaar, a couple Cardinals who are maybe on the trade block who could fill holes for the Dodgers. A lot of different guys to talk about in the next few weeks.
Yeah, and more Bellinger, because I keep bringing that name up. Richie had just asked, and we'll throw it in our pile to eventually get to, like, how realistic is a Cody Bellinger reunion. Tune in to find out.
Yeah, good spoiler or teaser. I mean, not a spoiler because we didn't tell what we think.
Yeah.
With that said, we want to thank you all for hanging out with us tonight. A lot of good going on in the chat. Good group. Thank you to the chat moderators. If you're not a subscriber yet to this channel here on the YouTubes, please click the old subscribe button. That means a lot to us. It's very helpful to us. If you want to talk Dodgers all day long with fellow All Dodgers fans, you can go to patreon.com/realfrg, and for just $5 a month, you can get access to the All Dodgers Discord server, where we are talking Dodgers all the time, having a lot of fun in there. A bunch of you are already there, and we appreciate all of you. So check that out.
Went the wrong way.
Stop eating the QR code, Clint. With that said, am I forgetting anything? Thanks to the Believe Network for having us. Thanks to our sponsor, FanDuel. Thanks to Clint for dragging himself out of his sleep number bed. Thanks to Purple Mattress for their upcoming sponsorship of the show.
And just generally the chat, the mods, everybody having some fun in the on a random Sunday night chat. We'll start getting into our consistent content plan coming up soon. But for now, just hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell to know when we're going to go live.
And bye.
Bye.